Hey guys, welcome to episode 3, season 2 of Club Fitting Chronicles podcast. I'm joined here with Gene, and today we got a pretty interesting topic for you guys: golf grips and why they are important, the textures, sizes, feels, and how they are important in the golf swing.
Yeah, again, as a former shop owner, I would have people who would come in and their grips are just a mess, and they go, "Yeah, and I'm having a hard time hitting the ball." Excuse me. Well, the reason your grips are all torn up or have all the wear marks, your hands are moving. They're the wrong size. What is your connection to the golf club? It's through the grip. If the grip is wrong, what's the chances of you making everything else good? Not too good. So figuring out what is it that I need? What field do I need? What size do I need? All that. And there's even more, and we'll talk about that today. Also, I want to give a shout out to my former business partner over at ADS Golf, Scott. He is working with the number one signing female golfer in collegiate golf for the second signing day. We fit her many years ago, when she was about 12 or 13 years of age. I shocked Scott because he was like, "Do you remember?" So, yeah, I remember. And I told him what the grips and what shafts we used. And how do you remember that? Because I fit her. And I remember I would have more people would come in, that I fit 10 years earlier. And they go, "Oh, I was wondering, oh, do you still have those clubs?" "Yeah." "You remember?" "Yeah, the swing weights D3. How do you remember that?" They're my babies. I built
That's
them.
funny. That's funny.
So,
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting topic for me, and hits home. I grew up with the lamp kit quarter grips, and I really grew fond of those. And for nostalgic purposes, I've always liked the quarter grips because of that reason. And I recently went through a grip change, maybe a little past a year ago. I played with Gene at Las Colinas, maybe. Oh gosh, this was almost 2 years ago
yeah,
now. I would show
we
him.
were both young.
Yeah, right. 2 years younger. I showed him my grip because I was telling
Your
him,
glove.
yeah, my grip and my glove
Right.
both had wear marks in the same exact spots. So my hand here, with my glove, I would always have a wear spot right in the middle of my palm or just on the bottom of my thumb. And it was very weird. I didn't know what it was caused from. I thought it was just, I played a lot of golf. Well, gloves wear out. You just play a lot of golf. Da 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 da. And the material wears out. Well, yeah, that's the case only if you have movement or friction, as I
Right.
learned from Gene. And my grips had a thumb print on my grips. Uh, Same thumb wear mark from my
Yep.
left thumb. And yeah, after learning the importance of that, and Thomas at the time, who was playing with us, had mid-sized grips. And he's a tall, lankier guy. His hands are much bigger than mine, but he had mid-sized grips with I would assume 2 wraps, but they were big and they fit very nicely in my hands, and ultimately led me to the change. And yeah, that's why I think talking about the importance of grips is uh, very interesting. It's just, for it to be as important as it is, it shocks me.
Yep.
I wouldn't have thought my game would get, that much better from changing the size of the grip, which sounds, I don't know, a little cliche, but that's really what it was. Changing to the mid size, I was telling Gene before this, my glove hasn't worn out since then. I can't remember a time where my glove has worn out since I changed to a size that's right for me. And now, how do we know which size is right for you? Well, Gene showed me a tool,
Yep.
and that was what was it? Measured your thumb.
Yep. No, it measures from this first crease to the tip of your middle finger, and then from the base of your middle finger to the tip of your middle finger. And that gives you an approximation, but it depends, and we'll talk about this. It depends on how you grip the club, whether or not that size is going to be big enough for you, or maybe you need it a little bit bigger. the way you tend to grip the club will also play a role in that. So that, again, if you don't have your own grip measuring device, if you don't find it online, that gives you an idea of what size grip, or what does that mean? Send us an email. Or you can just give me those measurements and say, gee, what size grip does this say I need? And I'll be happy to tell you, and I'll help. If you tell me what kind of grip, I can maybe give you a little bit of information about how do you make it to that size. Because that's one of the things that you can do. You can make a grip to a different size. And we'll talk about that today too. So to start off with, we were going to talk about texture. And Josh was telling me his texture story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So winn grips are very popular amongst a lot of people. They're latex free, they're soft, and most importantly, they're vibration dampening.
Yes. If you have a bursitis or an arthritis, it's a good grip to help you to keep that out of play, especially if you're like struggling in the 70-degree heat here in the winter, and you hit a thin shot, it doesn't hurt quite as bad.
Right. And that was one of the reasons I didn't know winn grip was really popular, is vibration dampening. But I had a wrist injury, and I also, every once in a while, my elbows, they have some issues, and it's funny. We switched to a winn grip on my driver. It was my driver, and I was taking a break from golf at the time because of my injury, and I was getting back into it, and Gene was like, well, let's try a winn grip, though. Kind of take the vibration and the hit out of your hands, and kind of just feel smooth.
Yep.
And once I gripped the club and actually felt the grip in my hands, I couldn't do it. It sounded different, it felt different. It was just an automatic, just dislike. And I was telling Gene before this too, I was like, maybe I missed out on a adjustment period, whatever the case may be. But as he said, it's like trying on a pair of golf shoes or regular shoes. If you don't like them and the way they feel, generally speaking, they're not going to be for you. And
they're not going to get better.
That was exactly the case. I mean, I tried and tried and tried over and over and over again. I just couldn't do it. And my grip preference is the Golf Pride, the multi-compound,
right.
Or the cord grips, or right. Anything that's kind of got a deep etch inside of the grip. People like the tacky grips.
Right.
I'm not really a big fan of, like the Golf Pride. Oh gosh, what are they called?
The G2s?
Yeah, they're just, they're like really, how do you say it? Shiny. And never were fond of those. Yep. The white ones, they look really cool. Don't get me wrong. They look really cool.
We'll talk about those white ones.
Yeah, they look really cool. But I can't do it. I can't do it. They sound different. The feel is different. And it blew my mind. The winn grips, I thought I was going to be really, really happy with it because, as far as the feel goes, or I call it the squish test.
Yes.
I squeeze my hands. Yeah, squish test. It passed the squish test. I liked it. It's like, that's a good feeling. Nope. Hit a golf ball, and it was completely what I didn't expect it at all.
Yep. Yeah. And by textures too, you have different durometers. That's hardness. You have different materials that are used, like in a winn grip. Obviously, it's a rubber underlisting that the grip underneath the wrap is rubber, and then there's a wrap over the top of it. And so that's kind of the squishiness and the shock dampening. Lambkin grips tend to are a little bit more tacky generally, if you like tack. And it's just due to the materials that they use. If you really like tacky, there's a grip called Tacky Mac. There's a grip called Pure. Pure is uses the same material that your windshield is held on to your car, so it doesn't get brittle if you're in the summer heat and stuff like that.
I didn't know that.
And it's made just down the road in Mesa. Good grip, but again, it's the texture. They have one grip that I think I sold 2 of in 10 years. Yeah, it had lumps and bumps and everything else, and most people would touch it and go, ew, I hate that. And there were two people who go, oh, this sticks to my hand. Oh, yeah, that probably made an impression in your hand with all the texture to it.
Yeah.
But it's a preference. But one of the things I would encourage people to do is go to a golf shop and just start picking up. We used to have all kinds of sampled size grips and also just grips so that you could touch. We had them on. I would grip different sets of clubs in our fitting system with different grips so you could feel that texture.
Yeah.
What do I like? Some people like a tour wrap where it kind of spirals around. Some people hate that tour wrap feel. It's not one that's better or worse. It's a feel, but make sure when you're checking out grips, you're checking, do I like the way that feels? Does it give me a solid connection to the golf club? And again, Tour Velvet made by Golf Pride, pretty soft.
Yeah.
Crossline, I'm a crossline black guy. If they ever stop producing those, I'd probably give up the game because I've only been using that for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
And I was showing Josh my 9-iron. The grip's been on there for about 3 or 4 years, and it looks like
brand new. I mean, there's no impressions on it whatsoever.
And I just love the little, I never wear a golf glove. I like the texture. The texture helps me to feel comfortable that I have the club in my hand. You give me a Golf Pride Tour Velvet, which is a similar look.
Right.
I can't do it. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So texture is a real important thing. Firmness, again, that goes kind of hand in glove with the texture.
Yeah.
You have different firmnesses. There are, corded grips tend to be firm.
Right.
Corded grip is basically they buff those down. The little cotton threads are stick out, and then they take them to a buffing wheel and they get them down flat to the surface. Those tend to be a little harder feel. You have other grips like Golf Pride has their CP2.
Oh yeah, the CP2
kind of a little bit softer feel.
Mm-hmm.
You have like you said, the G2.
Yeah.
That's kind of there's a little bit of softness, but at times you might feel a little tack, and other times you feel like you're holding on to ice cube.
Yeah.
Depending on your sense of feel.
Yeah.
You have winn grips. You have the original winn, the Excel it looks like, it was a black wrap or a copper color wrap. The copper was a little bit firmer than the black one, but again, it's a feel. It's a texture. It's a pattern, and some people like that. That pattern helps me to know I have the like on your multi-compounds.
Yes.
A lot of people like to put the label down.
Oof.
But on a multi-compound label down, because of the pattern of the compounds,
yeah,
if you've always done it, I guess you could do it. But a lot of times people come in and go, I want to go label down this time. And I said, well, let's put on one first.
Yeah.
And you tell me if you like the way this feels, because I don't want to have to pull 13 grips.
Yeah.
And most people go, no, let's go back to label up.
That's so funny you mentioned that. We were actually talking about that with one of my teammates. He actually likes his labels to the side.
Okay.
On the side. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, I would never be able to do that. Well, that makes sense because he has just the plain black, cross line,
right?
Like you have. Right. That would make sense.
You could do that.
Yeah, but on a,
even on a wrap, a tour wrap type, you can't necessarily do that.
No.
Where's that little line going?
Yeah. Or you remember I don't know if they still make them the line grips. They still make line grips. Yeah. That would be another one that's kind of defeats the purpose of the grip.
Right.
Is to be put on a specific way so you could see where your hands are in relation to the pattern.
The align is used to be called a rib grip back when I was a kid, and probably 50-60% of all grips were ribbed. And it was just, I could feel in the creases of my fingers where that grip is supposed to set.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of that align thing. Again, if you're doing them at home, you get a really, really thin weed whip line and you tape it to the backside of the club. You can't take a big one, or if you're playing especially if you're playing in a USGA sanctioned event, because there's a limit to how big that line can be.
Sure, I'm sure.
But for some people, that's a wonderful thing. For me, it just bothers the heck out of me, because sometimes I want to open my hands up and sometimes I want to close my hands a little bit. And I got that feel and I go, I don't know about this. This doesn't feel right.
Right. So with that being said, color too.
Yeah.
I mean, I really am. This goes back to preferences. Like black putter heads, I really like white grips. And that's why I said the G2 grips. Right. The white ones are really cool. No matter how much I hate them, I still wouldn't mind gripping my clubs with all the white ones. They just look way too nice.
And of course, all of you at home know that a white grip weighs more than all the others of that same grip. For instance, the G2 white weighs 56 grams. The G2 black, blue, and red weigh 49 grams.
I never knew that.
Yes, because white is a heavier color. It takes more material, to get that white to stay white.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that's true on their mid-size. Now, like in the multi-compounds, no, on that one, there's not enough white, and it's not
it's completely coated.
Yeah, it's not bright white. But any grip that is bright white tends to weigh more, and that's enough to affect your swing weight. And when we talk with Dustin, he'll tell us all about how much that affected him. So, one of the things with that, the feel of the golf club is making sure that where you put your hands, I always encourage people, okay, now on your wedges, do you ever choke down? Well, most people, yeah. Okay, slide your hands down. Is it acceptable down there? Especially like on a multi-compound or something with texture. Some grips, the texture ends, about here, and then you go down, you still have more grip, but there's no texture there. Yeah. Is that going to bother you?
Yeah. That's how I am with my wedges, especially. I grip down most of the time. I choke down.
Right. And so that's just something that people need to think about. If the grip texture changes down, real close to the end of the grip, do I still like that texture? Does it still feel appropriate to me?
Right.
So with that, how do I grip a golf club? Well, first of all, most golfers, if your grips are wearing, that means your hands are moving.
Right.
Generally speaking, if you ever hit a shot and you felt like the club spun in your hands, you're gripping it in the palm.
Yeah.
Because you don't palm a basketball. You don't hold it here. You're holding it with your fingers.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, same thing with a golf club. And we'll put a video in here showing you the difference between what happens when you grip it in your fingers and you grip it in your palms. So we're going to show you what happens when you grip it in your palm versus in your fingers as far as size goes. So this is in my palm. Notice what you're looking for is the ring finger on the left hand. If you're a right-handed golfer, it's digging into my palm. That's not a good thing. That means I'm going to be squeezing this to try to hold on, and I can't hold on because I can just sit here and spin the club in my hand, holding on tight because it's in my palm. In my fingers, I'm going to come diagonally across. Now notice, I just come to touch. Much more secure grip. I try to spin the club. It doesn't spin because I can hold it in my fingers. So those shots where you're in the rough and you take a big healthy cut at it and the club is facing the other way now, that's why it's doing it. You got it in your palms too much. But the number one thing you'll notice is When you grip it in your palms, if the club ever spins on you, yes, that's the reason, because it's in your palms. Generally speaking, when it's in your palm, not in your fingers, you need a larger grip because of the way your hands are on the golf club. So again, this is the time of the year. Well, not in the Midwest because it's still negative, whatever. So they're probably not running out to get the clubs regripped. But we used to get a lot of regripping in Southern California in late February.
Yeah.
People wanting to get ready for the golf season. And if you're, look at your clubs carefully. If there's wear marks, they're not the right size.
Right.
Generally speaking, and we'll talk about the two ways that, grips can wear from a friction standpoint, but generally speaking, most of the time, the grip is too small. That's the reason why they're moving.
Wow.
So, every once in a while you would get a grip that's too big, but most of the time it's too small. Now, the other thing for if you have hand issues, I had people with rheumatoid arthritis. My dad had rheumatoid arthritis, and he could make a fist, and it looked like about that.
Oof.
He couldn't close his hand. He still wanted to putt. He still wanted to try chipping and stuff. He couldn't take a full swing because he had shoulder issues from the rheumatoid arthritis.
Sure.
So we just made a huge grip. This was long before Jumbo Max was even out on the market. We just built it up. In fact, for him, it was the bottom hand. So his top hand was basically a jumbo size grip, and the bottom hand got bigger. He wasn't playing in a USGA event, so we don't have to worry about the rules of golf.
Yeah.
I had a gentleman who had a stroke. Same thing. Needed a bigger grip on the bottom. So we took a grip that we could build up and make bigger on the bottom. I had a student once who had missing finger. In fact, had a couple of missing fingers.
Okay.
And shortened fingers. Well, we made like a hockey stick, like the cap on the end of the stick. Well, we did that on because it was his top hand.
Yeah.
So we built up just below his top hand like a knob to keep his hand from sliding off the golf club.
Oh, wow.
So if you have hand injuries like that, I have a finger that doesn't go straight anymore because I got caught by a backpack and a kid running by me one day. But for a while, I had to invent a way for me to hold on to that golf club because I couldn't close my hand.
Right.
It just didn't work. And I still wanted to play golf. So, hopefully in your area, you can find a creative club fitter, just talk about, I need to make this work for me.
Yeah.
So if a grip is too big, the old logic was that it caused my hands not to be able to get through the ball, and the ball would go right.
Right.
Well, I remember many years ago watching a grainy, high speed video of golfers swinging, and they would give them grips that were way too big, way too small. And what they noticed was when the grip was too big, people would re-grip them, and they would open their hands to get their hands more around that thumb, more around the grip. You don't go this way on a big grip, you're going to go this way.
Yeah.
Well, what did you just do?
Right.
Opened up the face.
Yeah, wide open.
Same thing is true when a grip is too small. You're going to tend to squeeze and turn it over, and that re-gripping can cause us to go left. So if you see those wear marks and you see those ball flights, something to think about.
That was another thing that you saw when we played that one day. I get at the top of the swing and I'd get, right about here, and then I'd whoop, and I would just totally re-grip it in the middle of the swing. and the club face would get wide open, and it was just inconsistent, and I
Yeah.
was always trying to fix it. I was
Right.
always trying to fix something because golfers adapt and
Right.
overcome, right? So I'd always try and fix it, and then it was just I'd get flippy and wristy and whatever the case was. And I really wish I could bring in my old Lamb King grips that I had on my pings before we re-gripped them, because they quite literally were just black. I cleaned them, but there was just black marks. The etches and the texture on some of the parts of the grip were completely gone, or I guess smoothed out,
Right.
or were barely visible, just due to the fact that I had friction.
Yep.
And I had movement, and yeah, I mean it's really important for people to realize, the traditional way of teaching, they want you to grip it in the fingers. But like Gene said, there's people who can't do that,
Right.
either physically, or they're not tournament golfers. They
Right.
don't care. They've always gripped it in their palm and they make it work, right?
Right.
So it's one of those things where you build off your preferences, you build off what you're stronger at, and I would always grip it in the palm.
Yep.
And I still do, to a degree. I mean, I've changed
Not as
things
much.
in my swing to where I'm gripping it a little bit more at an angle, so it's more in my fingers more than it was in my palm. But still, I still have had the mid-size grips. Well, now I have a standard +4 wraps, which is just a taper,
Yep.
Underneath a mid-size. But with that being said, it takes out inconsistencies as far as hooking the ball, slicing the ball, which I would see a lot. I would always have a two-way miss.
Yep.
My buddies would always be like, "Oh, here's his two-way miss. Let's see what he shoots today, ladies and gentlemen."
Yeah.
And I still can't believe how I would score with that. But yeah, you would have a two-way miss, and you just wear out grips.
Yep.
But more than anybody, your gloves. I would always wear out my glove, and I seriously haven't changed my grips since I put them on a year ago. And then now, obviously I got new clubs, so I had to put new grips on. But those clubs still have the mid-size grips on them. They're a little bit dirty because they're white. They're going to get dirty pretty easily, especially here.
Yep.
And yeah, it fascinates me. It really does. And people really do need to realize, if this XYZ is happening, you need to pay attention and maybe question what is right for me.
Well, especially these days, because when I started in the golf industry, you could come into my shop and I would regrip your club, say with a cross line, and you're looking at $6 a club.
Yeah.
I can't buy a cross line for $6.
No.
Not so today. Now you're looking at $8, $9, $10 to regrip, $130 to regrip your clubs. Well, if your hands are dancing,
yeah,
how many times are you going to regrip them?
Right.
And so now they're starting to wear, and now you're starting to spit in your hands because you can't hold on because the grips are all shot.
That's a good point. Yeah, cost. Yeah, saving yourself money. I mean, yeah, I didn't realize how expensive grips are until I regrip my dad's clubs. I was like, I went to, I think it was Golf Galaxy or something like that, and I went there, and man, I was like, I only got 6 clubs to grip. He had a 5-iron through pitching wedge or something. So like 7 clubs that I had to regrip. So I got 7 grips, and it was, like you said, almost over $100. Yeah. And the grips that he likes are, of course, the Golf Pride, the corded ones.
You're looking at $12 a club.
It was ridiculous, and yeah, that's a great point you made. I mean, there's guys that I know that they're like, well, you don't regrip your clubs every such and such amount of months. You should regrip your clubs every one. You should regrip this. You should do this.
The tour guys do it, but you know how much they pay for those grips?
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. And most of the time, the reason why they regrip them is just because they want them brand new.
And because they've already hit 52,000 golf balls in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, goodness, it's crazy.
So yeah, they may need to. For us, again, just a little tip: if your grips are starting to get a little bit, the killer of a golf grip, 2 things: sweat.
Yes,
because the salts from your hand fill the pores.
Yes,
and the other thing, heat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're, I keep my golf clubs in my car in the trunk because I never know when I'm going to be playing golf. Well, if you're playing in Arizona, the heads will fly off first.
Yeah,
but
That's
if you're playing in a place where your trunk is going to get 110, 115 degrees. Well, the grips, the reason they get hard is because all the moisture comes out of the grip, out of the rubber. So they get to be like bricks instead of grips.
Yeah.
But if you want to take care of your grips, after every 3 or so rounds of golf, take a little tiny bit of Dawn soap, dish soap.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've heard
Put
this.
a little bit of water in your hand, go,
Yeah.
then rinse them good.
Yeah.
Don't leave the soap in the grip because that'll just take the place of the salts.
Yeah.
Rinse them good, then just turn them upside down so that the head is up, grip is down on the floor. Put a towel down there or something so your wife doesn't yell at you for when she slips on the kitchen floor. And then a little pat dry, and they'll be dry in a short period of time, and they'll last much longer because you've gotten the salts out of them.
Yeah.
And all the other things that are you toss your clubs on the green or near the green. Well, they fertilized yesterday.
Oh yeah.
You didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's sitting in the fertilizer.
Right.
And, it used to. There was a time when the Project X shafts, with the way they had made them, you set them in the fertilizer, and a couple of days later, how come my shafts are rusting?
Yeah.
Well, it's the oxidation from the rust,
Yep.
or from the fertilizer.
Yep.
So and now they use spray fertilizers a lot.
Right.
So you might not even, you don't see anything, but all that stuff gets into your grips. So
Yeah.
washing your grips every couple, 3 or 4 rounds. You don't have to be, every round, clean them up.
I know when I play golf, I always wet my towel, and I clean my grips pretty religiously now. But
well, and here it's also because it's 172 degrees, and you need to cool off the club.
You need it, yeah. But yeah, that's funny you mentioned that the whole chemical thing. My buddy, we're playing somewhere. This is probably a year or so ago. Anyway, left his club. This is where they overseeded, and they have the little specks of fertilizer or whatever. He didn't clean off his club. He took a divot, whatever, the fertilizer got all underneath the under on the sole. And you just see little like spots and dots of rust.
Yep.
And that's where I learned. Yeah, that's maybe not a good thing to do. One, you didn't clean your club, and two, you kind of just left it sitting there.
Yep.
He just hit a chip. It was right next to the cart. Left the club right there and walked with his putter.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a big deal too.
Yep. So grip sizes. Other things you need to be aware of before we talk about grip sizes. The core, that's the butt end size of the shaft, varies depending on the shaft.
Yes.
A lot of them are 600 cores. That's standard size. But I did a really quick just search through a catalog of different shafts, and I ran up from 570, that's 57 hundredths of an inch diameter, down up to 645 thousandths of an inch diameter. Or in other words, 8 grip sizes difference in the butt end of the golf club. So you put your standard grip on that big thing, you got a mid-size plus.
Right.
You put a standard grip on that 570 and it's undersize.
Was that my putter that we regripped? We had to build it up because the top of the butt end of the shaft was like that thick compared to that, and you're like,
it wasn't going to hold on at the bottom.
This is a problem.
Yep. That happens when you're using those long putter grips.
That's right.
Because the diameter of that shaft changes as it gets going down towards the tip end.
Yeah.
But that's something, I'll be honest, I would tell, people come in and they have a shaft. And again, I kind of knew the shaft, just about every shaft because I had no life. So I knew, the tip size, I knew the diameter of and all that stuff. And they would say, oh, I want men's standard and I want this grip. It won't work. What do you mean it won't work? Because of the butt size of that grip or that shaft that you have. That's why, it feels too big now. It's not because of the grip. It's because of the size.
Yeah.
I can stretch it a little bit, but I can't stretch it that much.
Right.
But people are, we had a rule in the shop. You measured the butt end. Even if you knew what the size was, you measured the butt end just to make sure so that you could get it to the size that the golfer needed rather than, well, okay, they said they wanted 2 wraps. So it's already a 640. So we're going to make it a 660. We're going to put a mid-size grip on it. So now it's a jumbo. That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And again, I was anal. I pay attention to those details. So I'm going to look at that. You know, what is the size that we're starting with? Grips come in different core sizes, and I meant to bring in a grip, but if you take a grip, and I don't know if I showed you this the last time, and you look in the bottom, you know, the end of the grip that you're going to slide on,
Yeah.
there's a number on the inside on most grips.
Oh, I didn't know.
It'll say 58. It may say 60. Every once in a while, you might see one that would still say 62, and that's telling you the core size. So if you put a 60 on a 60, you get a man standard, and that's a 9/10 of an inch diameter.
I see.
If you put a 58 on a 60, you now have a 920 grip size. So that's 2 wraps bigger than a standard grip.
That makes a lot of sense.
So knowing the core of the grip, knowing the core of the shaft, before I start doing any other adjustments, I got to figure out what I got here.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Because it matters. Because if we go back to my grip's all worn out, my glove is wearing out, and my grip has got wear marks all over. Well, it's the wrong size.
Well, it's like that makes sense. It's like you know, I had standard grip, felt like a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my other friend had a standard grip, and it felt colossal. It was like big.
You put that on that NV shaft, the standard grip on an NV shaft. That's a 1 wrap short of what you have on your irons.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you wanted a man standard, it's big.
This is, not a lot of people know this.
Right.
This is the first time I'm learning about that. That would make so much sense. I would, inconsistencies in grip sizes. Yep. People would, you have 2 wraps, mine's 2 wraps. Yours feels bigger.
Yeah.
Why does yours feel different? Yep. That makes sense.
It could be a core size of the grip, could be a core size of the shaft.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Right. You got to figure out what the common denominator is.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So grip size of the 900 at 0.9 or 9/10 of an inch is a man's standard. 0.96, that's a man's medium or mid-size. Mostly. Because again, in the golf world, would we all agree what a mid-size is? No, Winn doesn't. Winn has their own sizes. But I need to understand that. Like a Winn grip, I can't build that up too big. Because if I put too many wraps under it, because I got a rubber tube and then I have a wrap around it. Well, if I put too much tape underneath that on the shaft, that rubber tube expands, but that wrap pops.
Yeah.
So I can't make that too big. I can usually get away with about 3 pieces of tape. But to make a grip a 9/10 with just a little teeny bit bigger than mid-size or standard size, I put 1 wrap of tape plus grip tape. It's always plus grip tape. So that's all part of the function.
I see.
So if I want like my grip size, I have a 920. I use a 580 core on a 600 butt. Okay. That gives me my 520 or 920. Well, that was my grip size for many, many, many years. Well, now my hands are getting a little bit older and I get sometimes my knuckles hurt a little teeny bit. So now I go to a 940.
Okay.
So now I have 2 wraps of tape. Plus I still use a 580 because I don't want to stretch the grip too big. I could use a 600 core to do that. But now I'm stretching that grip a little bit bigger, making it a little bit firmer because I use a firm grip.
I see.
So I don't like the firmness, so I go 580, 2 wraps of tape. The other thing that I learned many, many, many decades ago, if you're a right-handed golfer, which hand is bigger, your right hand or your left hand? Well, if you're right-handed, generally speaking, that right hand is bigger then. It's not huge compared to the left, but it's slightly bigger.
Right.
And what we learned, because most golfers, if you look at their grips, there's 2 places that they tend to wear. The top,
yes,
here, That tells us it's probably a little bit too small. It's moving a little bit. And the bottom hand, the thumb.
Yes.
You get like a dip.
Yes.
I had actually people come in and you could see the shaft. It was a trench.
That's terrible.
So what we learned to do, and I would say everybody but Lee Elder, I would put a wrap of tape for the bottom hand. So I would put my hand on the golf club, and at the end of the shaft is here, make a little mark on the shaft, and I would put a piece of tape to the end. And then I would go a full piece of tape or however many other pieces of tape. So I'm building up the bottom hand just a little bit. That's the whole idea of the +4. It's 4 wraps of tape.
No.
But if for me, a +4 feels too big. It's just, there's not enough taper.
Yeah.
I like the taper, but I also, again, on my wedges, I use 2 wraps on the bottom hand. Why? Because I slide my hands down just a little bit or a lot of bit.
Right.
And I don't want it to feel like a pencil in that hand.
Exactly.
So you build it up just a little bit.
Yeah.
But, for grip sizing, if you would go through our computer program at the shop and look at all the different people, I mean, we had 980s. That's a mid-size with 2 wraps.
Right.
We had, 910s. We had, the hard part today about making grip size, believe it or not, tape.
I could believe
Tape
that.
has changed in thickness.
Yeah.
A roll of masking tape from the 1980s was thicker tape than a roll of masking tape today. And to try to measure the thickness of a piece of masking tape with calipers is challenging because it sticks to the caliper.
Yeah, exactly.
So trying to measure to find out. So generally speaking, what I would end up doing is, okay, we want to get this to a 930. So you do the first grip. Okay, I'm going to use 3 pieces of tape. You measure 2 inches down from the grip cap when you're measuring the grip size. And then I had my gauge and I would measure, okay, I'm at 929 instead of 930. They can live with that. They're not going to feel the difference, nor can I do anything about that.
Right.
It's too small. What was interesting is I mentioned Lee Elder when I would grip his clubs. I was only allowed to put 2 inches of tape from the butt end down, and then take his grip, and he used the Victory green grip.
Okay.
Remember, with the little cord in it, and I would have to stretch it to 13 inches, and it felt like I was holding a big pencil. But that was what he played. Jack Nicklaus, from what I've been told from a friend of mine who used to build and make Nicklaus's clubs, he took sometimes he would take a piece of tar paper and put a piece of tar paper around the shaft and then wrap the leather around that.
Really?
And his grips were tiny. His hands were very big, but those grips were tiny. And my first thought was, what would this feel like hitting a thin shot when it's about 42 degrees? The bees would stop after about a day. Yeah. So, but it's a personal thing, with there are touring pros who the seam underneath the tape seam, when the group, they could tell you if you had the tape seam to the right side, to the left side, directly in the middle, because they could feel that.
Yes.
Average golfer can't do that.
Right.
But again, they're not average. It mattered to them where that seam was, and it had to be perfect. But the average golfer, not so much. The last thing that you need to know, which is probably one of the most important things, the weight of the grip.
Mm-hmm.
Because the weight of the grip changes everything. I have no life, so I was doing some research. A grip for a full swing club, so driver to pitching wedge, lob wedge, whatever, can range from 22 grams to 76 grams. That's a big range. Yeah. Every 4 grams is a swing weight on the grip end. There's a lot of swing weights there.
Wild.
But it's not just the swing weight, how it affects what you feel on the other end. It also affects this end.
Yeah.
Because if you
Go
have
figure.
you have a 22 gram grip at the top of your swing, I don't feel anything in my hands.
Counterbalances the weight in the head.
Yeah, there's nothing to feel. You know, that was the thing. If you go back and listen to episode 1, the whole reason I got into club fitting was my golf coach would say, pull the butt down, and I would finally say, sir, I understand exactly what you're telling me. I can't feel it.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
I know I could point to it. It's right here on the end of the club, but I couldn't feel it in my golf swing.
Yeah.
You know, so knowing that, and I'm not including the Jumbo Max grip, because if I include the Jumbo Max grip, we're now up from 22 grams to 120 grams.
Yeah, let's not talk about the Jumbo Max.
So huge range. That white grip, the G2 white versus the G2 blue, 2 swing weight points.
I can't believe that.
Could you notice 2 swing weight points?
Yes.
Yes, big time.
Yeah.
And it was amazing how many times people would come into my shop. You know, they wouldn't come to me for grips because they thought it was going to be too expensive because we were a little shop and, you know, we were going to charge you $6,000. And then they found out that, no, we charged the exact same amount that the big shops did, you know, the big box stores. But they would come in and they go, I can't hit my irons. First question, how long have you had those grips on? Because they would always be the G2 whites. I just got them. I love them. That's why I can't hit. What? You put a couple pieces of lead tape on it. Let's go in the back. Wow, that's much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just brought it back to where it was.
That is so funny.
But worse would be the people who take a standard size grip and put a jumbo on it. So they went from 50 to 76 grams.
Yeah, that's...
I can't feel the head. Well, of course you can't feel the head. All the weight's in the butt. And how many times would a golf shop tell the customer that? 0. Because we won't make any money if we tell you, well, you're going to mess up your clubs.
Yeah.
So
That's unbelievable to me. That much of a difference. I mean, it's, you know, going back to when we, you know, weighted my irons, you know, we went from, what was it? It was originally C9, but, you know, to D2 and then eventually to D5 or whatever. Yeah, there was a complete difference in the D2 compared to the D5 as far as dispersion, point of contact, everything. So for it to be that much of a difference, I mean, it makes sense now that you explained it, you know, the coating of paint, I guess. But wow, that, like I said, I know a lot of people who love those grips and they really do look cool, but you got to do your research.
But you got to know what you just did.
You got to know.
You know, and it's always important to know, what do I have on there? If I want them to stay the same, what do I have on there?
Yeah.
And then matching that weight.
Yeah.
Or I have to make an adjustment.
Yeah.
And most golfers never. And that was, you know, I would have people who want to just, you know, run in, drop them off and run out. No, you can't. You can't. I got questions.
Right.
Because I don't want you to come back after the 3rd round and say, what'd you do to my clubs?
Yeah.
You know, I would always be accused. You tell me too much information to help me. Was that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not a bad thing, but, you know, you make me think. Sorry. We'll try to figure out a different way to do that. Putters range from 54 grams to 126 grams. And that's not including the big heavy grips.
No. That's
a huge difference.
Wow.
You know, and I would have people come in, you know, with a pistol winn grip and want to go to a, you know, jumbo jumbo winn grip. Well, you just lost, you know, 20 swing weight points in your putter.
I was guilty. We've switched from, I love the ping pistol grips, as many of you may know already. And those compared to a Super Stroke 18-inch jumbo, the Flatso 2.0, it's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't just the length difference of the grip that was different, go figure. 18 inches compared to the regular stick. Yeah. But the weight was incredibly different, and my putter became extremely heavy. And the greens, the time in which I did it, the greens started getting faster, and I had absolutely no feel, uh, judgment of speed. We ended up putting lead tape on the putter, and I came to the conclusion that maybe that wasn't a good idea. I was like, oh, I'm taking my hands out of it.
Yeah.
It didn't. No.
Yeah, we could have poured some sugar down your shaft to kind of
Yeah.
help out the weight, but it would just then you wouldn't be able to carry your bag because your putter weighed 12 pounds.
I mean, really, guys, we cannot express this enough on how important it is. And for someone like myself who's trying to get better and learn more about this and understand it, um, size, texture, color, that's all important. And weight is really the common denominator in this function as far as figuring out what you like and what's good for you. And there's plenty of people I know that would love a heavy putter with a long grip, and they would get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
They would make it work. I know a lot of people that, like myself, I wouldn't say I hated it, but wasn't very fond of something like that, and went back to my standard ping pistol grip with 2 wraps, and that's just something I love, something I've grown to appreciate, and ultimately I make more putts. That, like we said in the first couple episodes of the podcast, how does it affect you mentally? Confidence is a huge thing.
Yep.
I've talked to Gene on many occasions where I've, played in, I guess, rounds that I would say matter, that they are competitive rounds, and I wouldn't make a single putt. And I'm always hopping between back and forth, whatever the case may be. And, what does the confidence level look like? Is it really your stroke?
Yep.
And that could be another thing. Well, I don't like this, I don't like this long grip. This long grip is like you step up to
texture.
You step up to the ball and you're just
You get upset.
You already missed the putt. Yep. Right then there. You already missed the putt before you even get up to the green to look at where the ball goes. You're thinking about, man, this damn grip is ugly. This damn grip is so heavy.
It keeps getting caught up in my jacket.
Yeah, you already missed the putt. So that's that just brings us back to come full circle, talking about grips, and we'll finish on this. I don't want to keep you guys too long, but this is the importance. That's just what makes it mentally, physically, what you feel, what you see, they all come full circle, and they all matter.
Yep.
And the whole, core size, the grip there, that's another thing. As a lot of people, I'd say, if I were to give a percentage of how many people actually know that, I'd say maybe 10%.
Yeah,
5%.
Yeah, because we used to have trays with different grips in them. And I would have to go over there and take the 580s and separate them out of the 600s because somebody picked up one grip. Oh, here's where it goes.
Right.
And those are 2 different size grips. And that's even though you might not know it touching it.
Yeah.
The inside core is going to either grow more or less because of how much rubber was in there. And the grips weighed maybe 2 grams difference, but the bigger thing is the size that you're creating.
Like you said, the swing weight difference. Yep. I mean, that's just, that can be really detrimental for a golfer.
Oh, yeah.
Swing weight. For me, especially.
Well, and again, it goes back to why do I use the crossline for the last 20 years?
Right.
Because guess about when I figured it out? It was about 25 years ago.
Sure.
But that grip doesn't exist anymore. Right. That was the Lambkin Tour Wrap. I love that grip. And it was the same weight as the crossline. So I just stuck with the crossline. I could build it up, get the same weight, start off with I would go through and pick out the grips, and I'm the geek that goes to the store, and what do I carry with me? My scale. If I'm building clubs for somebody and I'm weighing out the grips, I need them all to weigh more than or less than.
Doesn't surprise me.
But
that's just what
there's a plus or minus factor in the grip.
That's what you got to do.
Yep.
If you're taking it seriously, that's what you got to do.
It's roughly, I've seen up to probably 3/4 of a swing weight difference from one grip to another. 3 gram difference.
Yeah,
that's big. It's got to make it up somehow then. So hopefully next episode, we're going to hopefully talk with Doug out in Tennessee, providing that the snow has melted. We're going to talk about the process that he went through for fitting, comparing it to what he had done in the past, what he's learned. Because again, what I want you guys to learn about is what matters. Going into a shop and hitting balls and somebody goes, "Oh, you were killing it with that," is a meaningless thing. You got to know, why am I killing it with that? Oh, because it's 4 degrees stronger lofted. Oh, no, what? I'm going 12 yards longer with 4 degrees stronger lofted?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Or was it because the swing weight on that particular club, because it has a little attachment, was D5, and when you order your clubs, they come in at D2.
Right.
And you didn't know that.
Right.
It matters.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to see. Thank you guys so much for listening to us for episode 3. We appreciate everyone's support. And if you can give us any feedback, we'd love to hear it, whether it's on YouTube. Give us a like and a subscribe. It's free. So you guys can do it anytime you'd like. And our email is open for questions as well.
Check on the bottom of your screen on YouTube, or check on if you're listening to us, there's always little notes there for you to follow.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys once again. It's been a pleasure. And I can't wait for the next episode.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year, guys. Thank you. Take care.
God bless.